Go! And we are off in the final.
Netherlands versus Australia. Henley Grand Final 2025. One of the most exciting races of the season. Look at that. Just the start tells you actually all you need to know. I didn't realize at first. When I watched the start, I didn't really see this. Welcome back to the Aram Training channel, by the way. Look at the start. Here. Look at the slip on the blades. Compare the Dutch boat with the Australian boat. You see this? Get ready. Just look at the blades. Let's start with the Dutch. Watch out. And off we go. Look. Ja! It looks good. It looks good until you look at the Australians. Look at their blades. They're starting much slower. Why? Why is this the case? Their speed is not less, and that's the interesting part about this. Their understanding of how to move a boat is different, and this is going to be the main topic of this video. And it's so interesting. Already the start gives away everything we need to know. So, what is the difference? Just from observation. If you look at the first couple of strokes, it looks like the Dutch just trying to hammer the blades through the water. They're trying to push relentlessly with the legs, not waiting for the connection of the blade at the catch, and just going for a high stroke rate. They're going by factors that are not directly correlating to boat speed. You would think, this is stupid. This is the best rowing team in the world right now, the most successful Olympic rowing nation of 2024. Why wouldn't they do this? Everybody cooks with water, and sometimes you're missing something. In my humble opinion, they are focusing on handle speed and on stroke rate. And both of these parameters don't tell you much about the ultimate boat speed. It can be super, super fast until you meet somebody who does it differently. Look at the Australians. They're looking for connection. They're trying to move the boat past the blade. They're much more patient. They too go full send, but they go full send with the objective to move the boat past the anchored blade. And this is a massive difference. One last time we're going to look at the start, then we're going to look at the other things. It's exactly like the New Zealand start. It's this legendary video. Look, it's the same idea. Look how slowly they are starting. It's a 127, by the way, or it's faster. This is the way you should be doing a start. Moving the boat, not moving yourself, not focusing on oar handle speed or breathing pattern or whatever you have. It's about moving the boat with your force and your body mass. Let me go back to the start. The patient first stroke, the second, look how much time they take. Most beginners don't even realize how much time you have for the second stroke because you want to move the boat. You don't want to do it like these comic figures do it, moving with their legs, but they're not moving as a whole. And eventually they get enough grip and then they start to move. So if you compare this to the first couple of strokes of the Australians, it's the same way of moving a boat. The same calm, collected, powerful, very target-oriented motion. The visually more congruent boat is actually the Dutch boat. Their pedigree in this boat class is of course phenomenal, and they seem to move much more harmoniously as a whole. If you look at it, it looks perfect. This is where we have a beautiful side shot, unfortunately just of the Dutch, not of the Australians. I would have loved to see this, but I think it's pretty tricky to film this here. So if you look at the quality, just the connection here at the catch, this is what I'm looking for as a coach. Are you going through the lats or are you going over the top of the shoulders? If you're going over the top of the shoulders, that means your shoulders go up. You're not using the latissimus, and the lat is the biggest muscle you have for the job. The lat attaches on your upper arm, and it's like designed for rowing. So you can use your arms like hooks, and then you go right through the lat down into the torso. It's the best superficial muscle we have in the torso to move, to transfer energy from the feet up to the handles. This is how you should be doing it. And almost everybody in the Dutch boat, you would expect so, is doing this perfectly. Two-seat is probably, if you want to imitate anybody, imitate two-seat. What a beautiful way to connect. So you see a perfectly positioned low torso. You see a beautiful connection right from the hands through the lats. You can actually see the teres major. You can see the latissimus dorsi. You can actually make a study of where the muscle is. It cannot get any better than that. Through the low side of the arm, right into the lats. It's bypassing. Of course, the shoulder blades are engaged, but it's going right in there. This is where he's anchoring. He's not anchoring up here. He's anchoring right there. That's the point. And this is where he's going. It's too many lines now. Let me show you once more. He's anchoring right here. This is where you should feel it. And you need to be flexible to feel this to a certain degree. You cannot be too stiff. Many beginners overbrace. And naturally, if you start on a linear drive rowing machine, you have to overbrace because it feels like a deadlift. But if you actually do regular rowing, like I show you on the BioRower, then you don't need to overbrace. You can actually feel where the energy is going. That's a big, big difference. This is why it's more intuitive to row in a realistic rowing environment. A simple Google search for latissimus dorsi will show you this picture here. And where you should anchor is exactly where the lat merges. So we go from the upper arm right here. So just the bottom tip of your shoulder blades, this is where you should have the main anchor point. And realistically, if your arms are extended, it's one line. This is one vertical line into the back. And this back muscle now goes all the way down to your sit bones. Now, let's look at our rower here from the Netherlands. This is exactly what I was trying to convey. He's going right from the hands into the top end of the lats. You would never think they actually merge in the center of your back, but they do. And this is how you should be rowing. You need a bit of flexibility. And no, you don't hurt yourself this way because you're going around the pins. If you had a linear pole, you would hurt yourself. Absolutely, I agree. But this is why you can't learn proper rowing on a linear drive rowing machine. And I've been coaching too long, and I've been rowing too long to look away. This is a fact. This is, for me, the essence of how you should row. If you want to imitate anybody, you youngsters out there, look at Two-Seat. Absolutely, absolutely a marvelous guy. But if you look at the entire bow four, the way they are able to move the boat together, look at that beautiful weight shift forward. Here, drive, drive, drive. It's a calm, composed connection into the lats. You see a massive difference. But if you spot, four-seat is moving differently than the others. See, four-seat is emphasizing the upper body swing much more than 1, 2, 3, or 5, or 6, or 7, or 8. He's got this typical late peak curve, and I'm going to refer to this a bit later. In all this perfect rowing, so complaining on the highest level possible, it is 5-seat. As I look at his left shoulder is going up at the catch quite a bit. And this is where he's not going through the lat as much as 2-seat, for example. Well, of course, you could argue, well, they're on different sides and it's easier to look better on the outside. I get this. But what if we compare 5-seat, for example, to 3-seat? The shoulders are lower. The motion is different. You see there's still a beautiful stretch in the lats. This is exactly what I tried to convey with this boat. The video I did on this boat explains exactly that even the inside arm can have long lats. It does work. If we look at the Dutch here, for example, look at 7-seat. He's got this beautiful positioning going from hands into the lats, even on the inside arm, which is very difficult, but he can do it. So if we look at the Dutch boat, their rowing is spectacular. So compare the Dutch with the Australians. Look at the time in the water of the Dutch and of the Australians. It's not, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions, it's not better if you're out of the water faster. Not at all. You want to be anchored to the water. The idea is that at that position here, where the Dutch are now in the water, you want to have a proper lock on the water. It's like you sitting on a skateboard and reversing. You're sitting on a skateboard, putting hands on the concrete, and push yourself back. Would you like to rub your hands over the concrete or not? No, probably not. You want to have a proper hold on the concrete and push yourself back. Now, the same principle applies for the boat. The idea is to have the blades as stable in the water as you can. This is why you don't want to go any deeper than you have to, because the deeper you go, the more slip you create. So slip is what we try to avoid. Of course, if you focus on high handle speeds, this will favor a technique like the Dutch have, or a style, where you try to be quickly in and quickly out. But it's not as effective as the Australians are rowing. The Australians are, in terms of technique, by far not as nice. But they are focusing on this mass, legs to upper body principle much better than the Dutch are. Here, at that stage, the Dutch are changing. This is where they're shifting gears and trying to catch the Australians. But it doesn't work. This is where they actually add very good force per stroke. And you can see this over the last couple of strokes here. This is where the Dutch are slowly gaining on the Australians. This is where they're finally shifting a bit and having much more force-based stroke and less of a cadence-based stroke. So When I say technique, the one who really is noticeably different here is Alex Hill in stroke. But he's one of my favorite rowers. He's physically imposing. He's so strong. The reason why they put him in stroke is because he's able to move that boat along with pure power. This sounds cheesy, but there's actually a good deal of thinking behind this. When you're in stroke, you need somebody who's able to communicate just by raw force, brute force, what the direction is. If you got a weak strokeman, this is not going to work, because how do you want to convey that you want to pick up force now and therefore have the stroke rate higher as well? You need somebody who is able to pick up force himself, and then the rest of the team will follow. You have to lead by example. And look at this, the livelihood of Alex Hill's stroke here. Technique-wise, he's erging the boat. That's a classic thing if you spend a lot of time on linear drive rowing machines, and you focus on that straight pull because this is what makes you fast on the erg, but it's not rowing. And this is what I see whenever we are at BioRower demos. A lot of people erg the BioRower and they erg the boat. It is fast to a certain degree, but not as fast as it could be. Look at the rest of the Australians here. Their tension at the finish, this is what I refer to on the BioRower, is brilliant. That finish position here, sitting up tall, nevertheless using body weight, is what sets them apart. So they harvest the effect of the upper body weight. Yeah, that's a glorious shot. For me, this is absolutely beautiful. This is where you see the excitement. This is where you feel the pressure. At least when I see this drone shot slowly. I mean, the Australians are chased by the Dutch, one of the best teams in the world. And look at how long their reach is. They're really using body weight together, and they just cannot be caught. And I can feel their desperation, their push. They're so close to glory. This is exciting. By the way, I love the glasses of the Dutch strokemen. So what they're doing is that they are rowing legs to arms, which is a classic that many coaches like to do and many rowers like to do. Not consciously, but subconsciously, because what if you do too much upper body motion, and then how do you get it back? Then you get into this pony ride, because every time I'm here, it takes quite a bit of effort to come forward again, provided you lack the core tension. And that's something the Australians are not lacking, and that's the interesting part about this, is if you look at their finish, you can actually see how they're doing this. So they're not sitting slouched at the finish. They're sitting like that. How do you brace? The way I coach this kind of bracing is that you don't brace the superficial muscles. It's not like, I want to brace my chest and push the chest out and do all of this. This is how you coach beginners, like that. But this just makes you tired. The way the pros do it is that they try to make themselves long. So we coaches like to say, sit tall off the seat. And by that, we just mean this, low torso, long. And that's very important, because what happens when you do this at the finish, so let me show you the difference. Slouchy, slouchy. And there have been Olympic champions slouchy, for lack of better opposition. But they were extremely fast. But if you do it properly, you're still faster with the same physical capabilities. Stable. Stable. And that stability is extremely important. So what I'm trying to do is lengthen the low torso so that I take along the deep muscles, transverse abdominis and all the other small ones. You cannot really willingly contract. And that's something that comes from ballet. Ballet dancers, so I was told, I've never been one, actually not having to do ballet was the reason why I started to look at other sports, and rowing was one of them. But that's a different story. They imagine they have a thread going through their torso. So it's like somebody pulls them long. That's how you activate the deep muscles. And ballet dancers, as we all know, need a lot of deep muscles. So when you're at the finish, this length is it. I'm focusing probably, and sweep port side now, a bit more on the left side of the upper abs to come a tiny bit out. It's not like I do at the finish. Charlie, it's going to be exhausting, so it's not realistic. You keep this up. What works is try to be tall, but lazy. Imagine it this way. Coach wants you to impress him or her. And coach wants you to impress him or her after 25 kilometers in the 8. So, sit up tall at the finish, and you just go, oh, I'm so tired, my hands, they're killing me, my butt's hurting. Sit up tall, okay. You try to impress coach, you do minimum effort, and by doing minimum effort, you actually do the right thing. This is not about being perfect and ballerina-like, because you can't keep this up. It's about having minimum effort, but still activating the deep muscles. So it's much less energy consuming to do that than doing this. See the difference? A big one. So what is my conclusion with this? Don't avoid using the upper body, because if you brace properly, you actually can do that part of the upper body swing. Here, this is the sweet spot. Why? Because legs to upper body is the same with sculling. This is where you use most leverage. And if you don't use this potential, but just do this, it makes it smooth, but you're not moving the boat with body weight. For me, this is the reason why the New Zealand 8 became Olympic champion, because Tony O'Connor knew exactly how to harvest this potential. It's actually in the notes that he sent me. It was funny, Tony, when you sent me the notes, I think it was your words of wisdom of rowing. I thought, I wrote that, and I wrote that, and I wrote that. Of course I didn't, because other coaches had the same observations that I had. And for me, it was one of the greatest confirmations I ever got. Confirmations from an Olympic champion coach. So Tony, thank you very much. And one of the words used there was, when you're tired, you can always use body weight. Perfect. That's exactly how to put it. Now, the main difference between the Dutch and the Australians is that the Dutch, as a majority, think of moving the blade through the water quickly, having a quick oar handle speed, a high oar handle speed, which is deceiving. Because if you do this and shorten the finish, you're super smooth. You can row a high stroke rate, so you achieve high stroke rate and quick oar handle speeds, but not necessarily the highest boat speed. And I'm in a difficult position here to argue in favor of that argument, because, hey, the Dutch were the most successful rowing nation of 2024 at the Olympic Games. Nevertheless, principles are principles. And it's not like the fastest in the world are doing this, therefore it is right. That is not the right deduction. The deduction is, what are the principles and what will make you fast? And as we saw, the Australians, not as refined in their technique, but the principle was better. The principle was legs to upper body was still going on, and they did it more or less in unison. And this is why they had a lower stroke rate, because they locked the blade on the water and they took their time to hang and then use upper body weight into the finish. Why didn't they suffer as other teams when they use upper body weight? Because instead of being slouchy and long, they actually were long and stable with the deep muscles. And that made all the difference. The problem, and why many people don't like to do this, is because the weight shift forward then becomes the issue. So if you're slouchy, here, the weight shift to getting your body weight to in front of the seat at a stroke of 35 is a bit of a tricky, is a tricky thing to do, unless you never lost the connection. Because where you should become slouchy for a second is here. It's not here. It's after you've shifted the weight forward, or with the weight shift forward, this way. So I give you 3 examples. Legs to arms. It probably looks smooth and stable. Legs with slouchy upper body. It's good up to stroke rate 25. And now legs with body mass, but braced, deep muscle bracing, which is minimum effort. You see this? The sound is just a whole different one. So the weight shift forward is the issue.
Watch the full race. It's absolutely worth it. Thank you for Henley Royal Regatta for providing excellent rowing footage. You're doing the community a huge favor. And thank you for allowing me to use it to demonstrate proper technique. Because youngsters will learn from this. Masters will learn from this. You're not hiding it away behind walls and you cannot use it and use it. Yeah, give proper credit and use it. So thank you, Henley. Thank you very much. And we all should now go and watch this entire race and subscribe to the Henley channel. Thank you very much, ladies and gents. My name is Aram. If you want to work with me, aramtraining.com. All the details on the BioRower on biorower.com, the world's best rowing machine by far. And congratulations to the Australians. Tonight, when I prepared the video, it was 1:30 a.m. in the morning.
I actually went down second by second by second by second by second, and there's a full list of notes and thoughts, and I will publish this on the Rowing.Zone as along with the video as an article, and maybe as a starter for a discussion. My handle is at Aram on the Rowing.Zone. Hope to see you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.